What's up, everybody? This is Logan Hanks with the Living Fully Loaded podcast. I've got a really awesome episode for everybody today. Guy I'm really stoked to get on. He's doing some really, really awesome stuff. Something that I feel like probably doesn't get talked about a lot, and see some pretty wild things. Real quick, before we jump in, do me a favor, go check out Right On Optics. RightOnOptics.com. They've got, everything from red dots, scope mounts, all the way up to some really high-end long-range scopes. So go give them a look. Listen to their podcast, the Right On podcast, as well. If you go back, I think about 2 episodes, you can hear me on there. So check out Right On Optics. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And we appreciate you tuning in. So today I've got an awesome guest, and that is Mr. Dustin Burt. Dustin, thanks for joining me.
Hey man, this pleasure is all mine.
Dude, I'm stoked, man. I've been running around doing a few things this morning. I had to drop my kids off and all that, and I've been really looking forward to this one today because we were talking a little bit yesterday, and so I'm excited to hear your story. And
Yeah.
the questions here, I even changed it up a little bit. I've had a standard few questions that I've always asked at the beginning, and I've actually changed them a little bit. So you get the
Okay.
first run of my new questions.
Hey man, let's
Um,
do it.
all right. What's your weapon of choice in the zombie apocalypse?
Weapon of choice in the zombie apocalypse. Man, you're making me get creative right off the bat here. Um,
Yep.
Shoot, dude, that is a good question. Zombie apocalypse weapon of choice. Man, I don't know, to be honest, what I would go with. If I had to run out to my garage right now, I'm probably gonna build, or not build. I'm gonna grab my trusty old faithful, man. I've done a couple AR builds that are awesome that I've done just to kind of see how I could do them.
Yeah.
For cheap as possible, and also some pricier ones. And I'll be tell you right now, man, some of the guns that I built that are like 4, 5, $600 are some of my best shooting guns. I'm probably just gonna grab one of them.
Yeah. All right. That's you hit on something right there that it's actually been on my mind. Um, there's a page, and this is one of them rabbit holes I'm fine with going down a little bit. There's this page that I follow on Instagram. I made a note of it there. And they share really awesome gun pictures, and I enjoy the page, but they put up like this rifle here is a Palmetto State Armory. I think it was like I don't know, a $900,000 AR pistol.
Yep.
And it's a great rifle, man. I've put over 1,000 rounds through it, never had a problem. Um, they shit on the PSA rifles on that page. And I saw today they were even hating on the new Canic pistols, and I've got a TP9. It's actually a
Yep.
great shooting pistol, great trigger. Um, so it's funny that you would pick, you didn't say you needed a Daniel Defense like DDM4
Nope.
to do that. And that's where it frustrates the hell out of me. These pages that kind of blast the lower end builds. Because not everybody has $2,500 to drop on an AR.
Nope. Now, I'll be honest. So the funny thing about you pointing at that gun behind you is the one that I was thinking of is I actually built a Palmetto with the Aero Precision. And I'll
Okay.
tell you right now, that's probably no joke, probably one of the better shooting guns I have. I just took it out with my kids 2 days ago and they were ripping with it. And I mean, it's just dead on. Like I said,
Yeah.
I can grab it. I can grab it out of the safe and I know it's pin on.
Yep. Yeah. That one I keep in my truck. Like that's my truck gun, and it gets tossed in the truck and taken out. It's replaced I used to carry just a pistol in my truck all the
Yep.
time. And I still typically have a pistol, but dude, whenever I got that thing, I was like, this is like the best thing ever. It's a pistol
Yeah.
technically, but so, um,
Heck
but that's,
yeah.
man, I don't know. That's something that's been like bugging me here lately.
No, I hear you, dude. I got a couple of friends actually that we do some training with, and he's an SF guy, former SF guy. And he came out one day, and I brought that thing out, and he's like, "Oh, come on, what are you bringing out here?" And then all of a sudden, he grabbed it, and he's like, "Dude, I love this rail." He's like, "What kind of rail, dude? This thing shoots good." So,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's, man. I think people get way too hung up on the gear, which
Yep.
it's easy to do. I mean, I love the gear and the guns, but like that's how we actually had a guy in town he's an active duty Navy SEAL, and
Hmm.
we were shooting, and he wanted to shoot that. I mean, and it's super short, super loud, so it like sprays a fireball out. It's got like a I don't know, it's like a 8.5 inch barrel or something on it, and I mean, and he ran this gun, and he was like, dude, this thing is badass. So like it got his stamp of approval, and that's what I'm like, yeah, if this little Instagram page doesn't think my rifle's cool, that's okay. Like I'm okay with
Hey,
that.
that's all right because someone that matters right now said that it's okay.
Yep, yep. Awesome, man. Well that's kind of what I was figuring, man. AR, that's a good solid choice. I feel like you could find ammo if you needed to, probably.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. You know what, man? Shoot, I just recently did a job across the state, and I drove home, and it was like, hey, I'm gonna stop in New Mexico. I'm gonna stop in Texas. I'm gonna pick up a box of ammo wherever I can. And shoot, I just did a whole drive home, and I mean, you could pick up 223, 556 just about anywhere.
Yeah. Is it all right now for people that don't know, we were talking off air. You're in Coachella, California. What is that?
Mhm.
Can you, I guess, what are the gun situation like there? Because I'm in Tennessee,
Yeah,
it's very different atmosphere on the
yeah,
firearms.
man. That's a discussion that it's weird. So California, honestly, it's like split down the middle. Like you have just for one, you have your politicians, right? So you have, I mean, just complete Republican, and you have complete Democrat, and there's
Yeah,
really no one. There's really nothing in the middle. So you have the extremes of both sides. So like for me, doing what I do in the security field, like I carry every day that I'm in California. And it's crazy because I actually have to pay attention to what city I'm in depends on what kind of ammunition I can run in my duty weapon.
really.
And yeah, oh yeah, and that's just the start. So that's just your ammunition that they're cracking down on. For me to even go buy a box of ammunition at a store right now, if I don't have, and I forget what it's called, and I can get you what it is, but on your basically your driver's license, there's like a little stamp at the top right hand corner. If you don't go to the DMV and get the one that doesn't have that stamp, you have to come with a passport or a birth
Wow.
certificate just to get your damn ammunition.
Now, when you
So,
when you say the different kinds, what can you like? Is hollow point outlawed in some parts or something?
yep. So
That is
I've actually
crazy.
Oh, it's nuts. I've actually gotten into a legitimate, I won't say heated, but a legitimate conversation with a San Francisco politician that was part of writing this into place. So in San Francisco, you cannot carry a hollow point anywhere in the city of San Francisco.
I don't
It-
understand their logic on this.
and that question right there was exactly what I asked him. And he turns and looks at me, and I'll be honest, Logan, like without even skipping a beat, he just goes, "I don't know why we did it. We just did it."
Well, that's
Oh,
that's
oh,
good. That makes
okay.
good sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, look, we're always taught to, if we're gonna shoot on a target, right? Like, we got to know what's in front of it, behind it, all the fun
Yep.
stuff, right? So okay, I get it, but and then I go into like the ballistics, of everything. Okay, well, here's why this is better. Here's why the dude did not want to have it, and after that point, I just realized it was going in this year and it was going out that year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's typical politician, man. They really don't want to hear the facts. I got a kick out of that Diane Feinstein or whatever. She had her bill that time, the Feinstein, it was on guns, like gun bill, whatever. And I'll never forget there was a part in there where she said that rifles with barrel shrouds should be illegal. And this
Yep.
news reporter, she was actually on, I think it was Fox News maybe. And the guy was like, it says in your bill, this was her bill, the Feinstein bill, and it was like, it says in your bill that rifles with a barrel shroud should be illegal. And he
Hmm.
goes, what is a barrel shroud? And she was like, well, it also includes high capacity magazines. So she was like diverting, and he goes, no, no, no. He said, what is a barrel shroud? And she was like, well, I'd also like to point out, and he goes, do you know what a barrel shroud is? And she
Yep.
just sits there and he goes, it's in your bill. Do you know what it is? And she goes, it's the shoulder thing that goes up. And he goes,
Oh wow.
no, that is not what a barrel shroud is. It's
Oh
like, that's in
wow.
her bill.
Oh, no, it's ridiculous, man. It's like the blind leading the blind, and I
Yep.
can't put it any other way because you have these politicians that the funny part is you get them out on the range, they have a blast. I mean, I've
Yeah.
legit had a politician that was against guns, never shot in his life, comes from a walk of life that you probably wouldn't, think that this guy would wanna go shoot guns, and lo and behold, one day just happened to meet this guy through a friend of a friend. He's like, "You know what? I wanna go try it." Took him
Yeah.
out, called me 2 days later, "Hey, what should I go buy for my first gun?" So it's like they get set on this way of life, and they've been branded, by this way of guns are bad, they
Yep.
hurt people, they do this, and it's like, all right, look, yeah, they can, but it's usually the person behind the gun that's pulling the trigger that does the hurting.
Exactly. It's just a tool, man, and that's, that's where I get frustrated. I know a guy that's very staunchly left, and voted for, I guess, probably the last several Democrat politicians, and he would be in favor of gun control. And whenever they come into town, especially around like the 4th of July, dude wants to shoot. He always wants to go shoot and have fun
Yep.
shooting. And like I've even told my wife, I'm like, I'm just gonna stop telling him we can go shoot. I'm gonna be like, look, dude, if you're gonna want to do this and enjoy it, then you got to quit trying to like vote to have my right to do it taken away.
Yeah, there you
So,
go. Well,
man, I
what
hope
a lot of
that
these
rain ain't bad. Is it super loud on your end?
no, it's not at all.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah, but no, I mean, to piggyback on, what you were just saying, man, like you said, man, I don't even like, I don't have words because it frustrates me.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
it's like me again going back to what I do, or anyone in a protector role, whether you're, law enforcement, military, security, whatever it is. It's like, why don't we get to have the same right of protecting our own lives than what these politicians do? And
yeah,
8 out of 10 politicians, if they're at a certain level, they have a private security detail. You might not notice them, they're there. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of these guys in the White House, I mean, a lot of these guys in, your Capitol buildings, I mean, they have full-time executive protection details, and don't get me wrong, they are fully armed and ready to go.
yeah. Yeah, and whereas a normal guy, I can't afford to have like a security detail with me all the time. So,
Yeah,
all right, man. All right, we're going to get into this more as we go into the story. I got two more questions for you.
let's do
Um,
it.
all right, you have stumbled upon a little hidden lamp. You clean it off, a genie pops out. You get one wish instead of three. What are you wishing for?
Honestly, so funny enough, I did a show a couple weeks ago, and we touched on a question that had nothing like the start of your question, but almost the same answer. And that question was, is if you left the earth today, what would you want to be recognized for?
Yeah,
And for me, it's not fame, it's not money, it's not, any of the materialistic things that we can do. It's honestly, I just want to make an impact on people. So if I had one wish, honestly, it would just be to continue to be a strong man, in the eye of people, and to
yeah.
be a mentor. I mean, that's honestly kind of all I want.
Well, that's a great answer, man. I mean, that's a really good answer, and especially, um, I would say with the field you're in, some of the, some of the dirt bags that you have to deal with probably makes you see that more. Like it almost would make you want to be sure that you are not like them. You want to be better. So, I
100.
think that's solid. That's solid. All right, last one. You got to watch one film for 24 hours in a row. What are you watching?
River runs through it.
Oh, I just recently watched that one, man. That's kind of a depressing movie to watch for 24
Uh,
hours in a row.
You know what? It's depressing, but it has a good message. If you sit there and you can sit back and listen to it, and here's the reason why I can do it for 24 hours, because you have your exciting moments, and then you have your moments of calmness. And
Yeah.
whether you're watching it during the day or watching it at night, I feel like you can watch it or you can sleep. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. 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 Do you fly fish?
I do. So funny enough, my brother and I, which you may have had a chance to meet this last, winter strong, we grew up hunting, fishing, since we were kids. And, we always did spin reel. So it wasn't until, shoot, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I got into fly fishing. And just like anything else, it's like you start it and you just go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never done it, but I got a buddy that loves doing it, and he's talked all about it, and that's but no, man, I'm like a huge Legends of the Fall fan, and River runs through. It's very similar to me, and so
Yes,
my
sir.
wife had never seen it, and I let her watch it, or we watched it the other night, and like, I mean, she hated the ending. She was like, "What the heck?" Like, but it is a great movie for sure.
It is. Oh, yeah.
So, well, awesome, man. Well, I think that was a good warm up there. Especially I mean, the zombie apocalypse, the weapon sag, we could go down that route forever.
Oh, all day.
So yes, yeah, man. And so tell everybody a little bit what you do. Like they've kind of heard you touch on the security thing. Give us a rundown of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so good question again. So funny enough, I mean, I look a lot older than I am. I got tons of gray. I'm 35, but I come from a very entrepreneurial sports background family. There's 6 kids. Out of all of us, I think we all played sports pretty much. Growing up. So I played collegiate ball. Ended up tearing my shoulder pretty early on in my career. Didn't really know what the heck I wanted to do in life. So I was kind of going through that transitional period where it's like, shoot, do I go, for me, being in law enforcement or not law enforcement, but playing baseball, it was like, do I go to law enforcement? Do I go military? I didn't really know what the heck I wanted to do.
Yeah,
Um, tried my hand with some law enforcement because I've been training with some guys at the time, and got into like 3 or 4 different backgrounds. They froze, backgrounds froze. I'm like, all right, this isn't meant to be. A friend of mine who, funny enough, is now, don't quote me on the title, but I think he's the assistant global director of security for UFC. Was
dang,
one of my mentors, still one of my mentors, one of the greatest guys. And he just said, "Hey, you know what? I got a job. I don't know if it's anything you're going to like, but come try it out, see if it's something you want to do." That was 2009, and I've been doing it full time ever since. So a
nice.
little bit about what I do is private security. We call it executive protection. You hear the terms bodyguard, right? Which is still very widely used. To me, bodyguard in our day and age is just an immovable object of a man. I mean, usually
Yeah,
it's about a 300 and something plus guy who literally has no background in the field. He's just he's a big body. That's what he is.
yeah,
Executive protections, it's a little bit more meticulous. We can do anything from working with politicians to working with musicians, working with high level actors, CEOs. We do combat sports. It's kind of an open world that, like you said, a lot of people actually don't get to see firsthand.
yeah, yeah. I think it will I mean, the bodyguard thing is probably most people's typical idea of what it
Yep.
is. Just
Yep.
like a big dude, like I'm envisioning a bouncer. Like that's
Yep.
what probably a lot of people would think about. Um, and I mean, that's I don't know that it's a fascinating world to me. And so like, take us through how does that start? Like, how do you get to the level you're at? Because I've seen, you'll see the little security postings for like a security guard somewhere, but that's
Yep.
not what you do. That's what you're doing is on a much different level than going and standing out getting $12 an hour being a security guard. So like explain how do they train you and everything? I want to know all the world of it.
Matt, so it's kind of a crazy wild west, to be honest, in the training world. So for me, I'm not your typical guy in the security field, to be honest. I'm all civilian trained. I've been fortunate enough to put myself in situations that, to be honest, guys in my shoes probably wouldn't have the opportunity to do on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
Growing up, it's funny enough, my oldest brother was dating a girl, and her dad was a Master Chief Navy SEAL. So on the
Awesome.
weekends, there's a desert warfare training out somewhere here in California. that we may or may not have done a few trips to on weekends when they weren't training.
Yeah.
So starting from an early age, it was like I've already kind of started to prep myself for what I wanted to do, not knowing this is what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, there's all kinds of what they call, executive protection protector courses all over the United States that you can do. Some of them are great, some of them are horrible. I've seen these guys, and no knock to the Israeli SF guys. They're fantastic at what they do, but a lot of them come to the States and they want to teach, guys how to jump out of the back of a moving vehicle and shoot targets and shoot with the doors open. And it's like, all right, I, I get it. Overseas, that might be something that you have to do. But here in the US, if you're, let's say you're watching Reese Witherspoon, I mean, I don't know. Um, I'm sorry, but you're not going to jump out of the back of a car with your hatch open. Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you really have to be careful in our world of training because you do get some guys who, man, they're just, let's just say they're going to set you up the wrong way. So, for me, it's hard to say how that guy did it and that guy did it, but for me, from a young age, again, I just got mixed in with the right people, prior military guys, law enforcement, private sector security, uh, you know, not combat sports, but martial arts. And, I kind of just took with it, and, I had to start in one lane and kind of
Yeah.
get good at that lane, right? Then move to the next lane, move to the next lane. And then what I've noticed is, I've been doing this long enough. I've done enough, courses and different, um, shoot, I'm having a brain fart this morning.
You're good, man.
um,
You're good.
no, just having your wits about you. Again, doing your due diligence. It's crazy. I've actually, Logan, never had that question asked because it's such a wide open question. It's not like you can't answer it with one specific
Yeah.
answer, if I'm honest.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
know.
yeah.
And that's like, I'm imagining, uh, because like you said, all civilian, a lot of times when you hear security, it'll be like a guy that was former infantry or something like that. And so that's what I
Yes.
was curious to hear. Like, what if do they, I guess the training, kind of what I'm hearing. So is the training really kind of up to you? Like, you get to decide how skilled, like you could have a guy come in that just thinks he's probably like Billy Badass and doesn't necessarily need the training, and he could get into that world. Now he's not going to be the guy that I'm going to want like on my detail, but
Yep.
on the flip side, you've got the guys that are like, okay, I'm going to put the time in and go do some firearms training. I'm going to do, like you said, jujitsu or some other types of training and different things. And so it's probably got a lot of, I guess, like I said, very open ended stuff you could do.
Very open ended, and that's kind of like you said. It's up to the protector at that point to put enough work into it to be, I mean, to just be a legit protector.
Yeah.
You know, if we backtrack and you went, "Hey, Logan, what do you require from guys?" Now we're starting a whole nother question, right? So
Yeah.
for me, I'm actually not really looking at what your experience was in the military. I'm not looking at what your experience was in law enforcement. Really, what we do is 80% customer service, 20% security. Um,
Yeah.
and when you know you have a guy that is solid in the world of executive protection, you can generally find out within about a 5 or 10 minute conversation of just having a regular conversation, asking him a couple of key things and seeing how he responds.
Yeah.
Um, security comes down to way more than just physical safety of your client. If you're dealing with a client that, let's say you're a Hollywood, celebrity, you're looking at everything from, the estate, whether you're protecting the state. You're also looking for anything that might embarrass your client, harm your client. Um, we're looking at social medias, we're tracking POIs, which we refer to as, people of interest. So there's a lot that we do that a lot of the public eye actually never gets to see.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I was actually running through a POI list here just before we got on, and sure as heck, we had a guy that we were dealing with 2 years ago pop back up on a client that um, really doesn't even know who this guy is, but for whatever reason, I mean, he's fascinated with her. He's like 75 years old, and this client is 24.
Oh,
So,
wow. So this is, what is he, like a stalker?
oh yeah, Oh yeah, we get a lot of pedophiles, a lot of stalkers, a lot of different things that go along with it. So, when people
Like,
say, it's cool to be an actor, it's cool to be in the limelight. It's hey, you got to know what you're getting into before you get into it. Um, so, and to go with that is now you see the level of threats we're dealing with, and that's a very low level threat, to be honest. And so if you're, let's say Logan's, a CEO, and I'm coming in to say, hey, this is what we're going to do for you. Here's how we're going to set things up. You're going to look at me and go, okay, well, what do you know that I don't know? Like, obviously, I got a gun behind me. I got this, right? Well,
yeah,
my job is to come in, make sure that you're not in the limelight for one. Um, I'm going to do everything in my powers to say, okay, Logan, if you're going to this event, I'm going to get you in there. How do you want to go in? Do you want to be seen? Do you not want to be seen? We might go through some back doors. We might go through some freight elevators. We might go through one entry from a building that gets you into another entry to the adjacent building just to get you into
yeah.
this event. But I'm going to do it so that you're out of the public eye.
So that's pretty cool. So then you probably, I'm assuming you get like schematics of the buildings and kind of map out your paths and all that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it depends. Every venue is different. We do things from global boxing. We actually set, I shouldn't say we ran the security for an event through COVID. It was actually Canelo versus Saunders, boxing match. We
Okay.
actually set
Yeah.
a world record attendance in Texas during the heart of COVID. So dealing with things like that, where I mean, we're at crap, I don't even remember, was it 86,000 or 76,000 people? And
Yeah.
you got to write, a security plan for one, the venue's got their evacuation plan, but now two, you have to build your security plan into their security plan and almost double up on it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a fun world. And I probably just gave you a totally loop around to your question, but yeah.
No, no, man. And it's actually really, I mean, I never thought about all the different aspects that you go into. Like even like you said, the social media side of the things and going in and like even kind of figuring out these people of interest, different aspects like that. I mean, all I've ever seen would have been what everybody else just sees, and that's the guy that's like when an actor or somebody's walking through,
Yep.
they got their dudes like, blocking, pushing people back and making sure everything's okay. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm envisioning. But yeah, I didn't think about all the layers underneath there. Um, and I mean, and now to get to a level of working with
Hmm.
like the level of like clients that you have, how does a guy get there? Because I feel like if, let's say tomorrow I said, man, I'm gonna become a security guy. I'm calling Brad Pitt and I'm gonna be Brad Pitt's security guy.
Yep.
Like I feel like it does not work like that.
No, it does not. Um, Again, that's one that, for one, takes experience. I started to touch on this and then went down a rabbit hole, so I apologize. And what I mean by that
No, you're good.
is, is if let's just say Logan wants to go work with Brad Pitt. All right, so essentially, there's probably going to be, depending if you're working for yourself, working for a company, someone's going to have a bio on you. Brad Pitt's going to end up going, okay, who's this guy Logan? Why does he want to come work for me? Whatever he's going to say, questions he's going to ask, that's up to him, right? Um, Ultimately, I'm going to tell you one thing. It's going to come down to you coming in, sitting down with Mr. Pitt and going, okay, sir, here's what I'm going to do for you. Here's how I'm going to do it. And here's my background of what I can do.
Yeah.
To get to that point, there's a lot of different things. There's an organization that I'm a part of called ATAP. It's Association for Threat Assessment, and they do events all over the U.S. You can go and do profiling classes. You can do investigative classes. I mean, anything you could do with law enforcement, you can do with military. You can actually do these courses through ATAP and get certified, which is pretty cool because then you can take those certifications to companies and go, "Hey, check this out! Like, I'm a threat assessment, certified,
Yeah.
security professional," and that actually goes really far because there's not very many people in our line of work that can do a threat assessment. They all say they can, and they do them because they go on Google and they go, okay, threat assessment, diagram, and they just fill it out. Like anybody can
Yeah.
fake it, fake it till you make it, right? But there's
Yeah.
very, very few guys who are actually certified at doing threat assessments. That's one thing. Um, Obviously, the shooting part of it is very minuscule. To be honest, I mean it's something that you need to know. It's a skill that you need to have, but it's not necessary. There's a lot of clients actually within the Los Angeles area that don't want armed security, but they want security. Those people
Yeah.
usually they're looking at, okay, does this guy have some sort of combat training? Does he have some sort of, hand to hand training? Does he have this? Um, so again, to go off your question, it's a mixture of all of these different things that are kind of up to the protector, to go
Yeah.
out and do on their own time and become proficient in it. And I'll tell you right now, I got a guy that works for us, worked valet. I just happened to hear the guy. I was coming in with a client, didn't have time to go and advance the area, and he just kind of knocks on my window and says, "Hey, Mr. Burt, I know who you have in the car. I didn't know if you're aware, but there's actually a back entrance over here. I can open up the gate. We can bring you straight in through the back. Yada yada." Right? And this is a valet guy. um, I was actually really impressed. I'm like, all right, cool. So this dude takes off running down the road, opens up this side gate. We bring this client in, and I get my client settled in, and he kind of comes over and goes, "Hey, is everything okay?" Look, this dude's a valet guy, right? Why is he anywhere where I am close to my event making sure that I'm okay? I should be
Yeah.
giving him a thank you because he brought me in the back door. Dude, I walked out, handed him a card, and said, "Hey, email me on Monday or call me, please. Like, I just want to talk to you." And he's like, "Okay." Monday morning rolled around, the dude called me. He's now been working for us for 5 years. I've
Heck yeah.
literally sent him to as much training as I possibly can. He's done as much as he can. He's probably one of my top 5 guys on payroll.
Yeah.
Yep. And he
Yeah.
had a humble
That kind of,
beginnings of valet.
well, hey, and that goes hand in hand, man, with the, if he, I feel like this is a whole side point too. I've made some notes here, some stuff I want to come back to, but that goes hand in hand with the guy that says like, well, that's, I don't get paid to do that. That's not my job.
Yep.
That guy could have, look at the opportunity that he would have missed out on if when y'all came up and he just did his just standard valet job. And
Yeah.
instead he's like, hey man, I'm gonna help this, like throw him a bone, tell him about this spot, do this. And so he went above and beyond. So if there's a takeaway from that, I would say you look at the missed opportunity this guy would have had if he had just been like, well, it ain't my job to worry about the security stuff or do anything like that. Thought that
Yeah.
was pretty neat. But dude, that now, all right, is it something where do you bid these jobs? Like, is there, like, if I were to go meet with Brad, we'll just use him for an example. Hopefully he's not, I know he's kind of politically a little different than I am. I don't know what kind of a person he is. He might be super weird. But if I was going to meet with him, is there another security company that may be also like, do you bid on it? Is it like a construction thing where you bid contracts and they kind of select the contracts? Does it work like that?
Yeah, it does happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. So I've had jobs where I've gotten calls from business managers. I have no idea who the client is, and they just go, "Hey, I want you to come meet me at this location." Usually, it's at the client's residence, and I want you to walk the property, give me a bit of the overall property security, and then we'll talk from there. Um,
Yeah.
Usually that second step is, okay, here's the client, what can you do for us on an executive protection level, or whatever it is. So we've gotten them that way. We've gotten them where it's been 100% word of mouth, which honestly, those are my favorite, because I know that I did a good job somewhere down the line, that my name now got
Yep.
passed off to somebody else, and they're now calling me and saying, "Hey, I want that same level of service you gave XYZ over here. Can you do that for
Yeah.
me?" Yeah, certainly can. Um, so it happens in a lot of different ways. Sometimes you stumble into people. Sometimes a client doesn't have security with them. They go to an event. They might have a security detail. They just chose not to use them that day, and they saw you walk in with, you name it, whoever it is. You were just killing it, right? I mean, you're opening doors. You're, doing all the right things. You're using your yes sirs, your yes ma'ams, and he just goes, "You know what? I want that guy." And next thing you
Yeah.
know, his assistant or him or her might be walking over and saying, "Hey, I don't mean to bug you, but can I get a card from you, whatever." You might not know who they are. You might know who they are. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like those are the typical clients that are not typical clients. Those are the clients that I actually love the most because it's like, okay, I already know that I'm coming into a winning situation here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. That'd be like back in the day, you know, if you found out a chick that you were kind of into really actually liked you already and you
There
kind of
you
had caught
go.
the drift. So yeah, so you're stepping in ahead of the game. Well, cool, man. All right, so trying to think anything else on the kind of entry part. I guess if a guy was this was something he wanted to do,
Hmm.
um, it's not. I mean, they don't have to move to like California. I'm assuming, and
No.
like you know, here in Tennessee, I'm gonna say Nashville. There's probably pretty lucrative opportunity for these kind of things. I'm closer to Memphis than I am Nashville. I don't know how much security necessarily. It's probably a lot needed in Memphis, but it's I don't know how much is used. But how would you advise a guy to if that's a world he wanted to get into, like executive level protection, what does he
Mhm.
need to do?
So, man, there are a lot of different things because there's so many different avenues of executive protection. Um, you don't have to move to
Let's say a guy
California.
said he wanted to a guy was like, I only want before we a spoiler alert for people. Towards the end of this episode, we're going to get into the dark side of things. But right now, let's say a guy is like, man, I just want to work with freaking movie stars. Like, I want to be the movie star security.
Yep,
What would he need to do?
dude. This probably isn't the right way to do it, but if that's what they wanted to do, I would say do some research, find out who the heavy hitters are that work with more of those movie type star celebrities that you want to work with. Put a damn good resume together and just go right up to that person and say, "Hey, I want to work. Here's my background. Here's what I do." If you have all the experience in the world, great. That's going to back you up on your resume. If you don't, just say, "Hey, how can I work for you? And what do I need to do to come work for you?" Um,
Yeah.
there's a guy in the industry I actually just did a podcast with. His name's Byron Rogers. Um, he's done a bunch of stuff. Like both of you guys have been on Mr. Bartolo's show. Um, I mean, Byron's just a great dude. He's kind of that face in a sense of the security world, right? Like if you want to know about
Gotcha. Yeah.
what's going on in the security world, you get with Byron. I've been fortunate enough to meet him this past year, and we kind of hit it off like we've been brothers for 15 years. He's a great dude. So that's what I would say. I mean, if that's an industry you want to do, you just go straight for the head honcho, and you kind of just tell him like, "Hey, this is what I want to do, and how do I do it?"
Yeah.
Everything else from there, if you find the right people, they're gonna help you along the way.
So it's probably it doesn't sound like it's this weird adversarial thing where because you're a civilian, you're like looked upon with the military guys. Is there that in that world?
No, and I'll tell you, being a business owner, and no disrespect to to our veterans or law enforcement, because a lot of them are brothers to me. I'm actually sometimes more hesitant to hire a former law enforcement or military guy over a guy that's got more training in the civilian world. One of two reasons. Um, the guys who have been in it for a long time typically get into like their set routine, and it's very hard to break them out of that. Not that it's a bad
Yeah.
thing they're in a routine, but in our industry, you have to be able to be adaptive, almost like a chameleon. Some days you're working with a CEO that's 70 years old. The next day you might be working with his son that's 17 years old. So you're going from
Yeah.
70 to 17. You can't come up, if you're in Southern California, you guys all know, like, everyone jokes about it, right? "Hey, bro, Southern California, man, everyone's surfing," whatever. Um, you can't go from wearing a suit with dad to wearing a suit with a 17-year-old kid who's dressing in flip-flops and shorts, right? Now, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
dress in flip-flops and shorts, but I'm gonna dumb the occasion down. I might change my lingo a little bit and, maybe change my SOPs. And,
Yeah. So you
some of
don't
the
stand out.
so you don't stand out. And some of these guys do not have that mental switch to where they can go yes and no. It's like, nope, this is my way, and that's how it's going to be. So
Yeah.
I get very picky when it comes to choosing guys, and I don't actually choose um, jobs. Let me rephrase that. If I get a job and they say, "Hey, I need someone," and this is what I'm looking for, I don't just automatically go, "Oh man, I got a perfect guy for that. I'm gonna throw him on here just because he's open and I can put him on the job." I'm actually going to
Yeah.
go into detail with that client and go, okay, what are you really looking for? What do you want? And you'll be surprised at, for one, how racial clients get, but two, how particular they can get. Because I've had clients straight tell me, I don't want any white guys around me. I don't want any black guys
Yeah.
around me. I don't want any Hispanic guys around me. I don't want any foreign, Middle Eastern guys around me. And I have to be respectful to that because that's my client at the time. Um,
Yeah.
Thankfully, I don't have those anymore, but I have. And yeah, long answer to your question.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, that's I think that it's really really a cool thing to me. Kind of I guess the opportunity. I feel like it sounds like there's probably a lot of opportunity in that world. And I'm thinking about, you know, I remember I've done this shooting. It was an active shooter training that I went through. It was actually for church, like dealing with a church active shooter. And the guy told us, like we were talking, he asked how many of us in the room were veterans or not. And I never served. And there might have been one guy that had served. And he actually was like, man, I'm going to be honest. It's actually easier to teach a guy that was not a veteran.
Hmm.
And again, he was like, this is not a dig at our military by any means. They do a good job at doing what they do. Like
Yes.
what they're needed to do, they know what to do.
Hmm.
But then coming back and like, there's an idea a lot of people have, like if a guy's a cop for 20 years, if a guy's in the military for 20 years, then this guy, you have this perception, some people do, that they are one hell of a top shot and all this stuff. And
Yep.
man, the guy was like, dude, some of the worst shooters I've ever seen were cops and military.
Yep.
And they don't train, like um they don't practice that. They get through what they have to do, and then they get into their job and they stay in that job. Hey man, I get it, it's nothing. I'm again not hating on them, but that's just one of the things the guy said. And so it made me feel kind of good as a civilian, because I try to shoot pretty often. Like I pride myself in being pretty good shooter. I mean, I grew up hunting. Like I've been around guns my whole life,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. I feel pretty good in that arena. So that's encouraging to me for somebody that's listening that maybe, let's say they're like 30,
Hmm.
and this is something that sounds really fascinating to them, but they're not going to join the military at 30 years old. Like at this point in their life, like if it was something where I need a Navy SEAL, dude ain't going to go become a Navy SEAL at 30.
No, sir.
So like, but so all right, that's now, I guess before we get into this other part, I got to ask then, what is one of the craziest? Have you had any, like, I mean, I don't know if you've had like a shootout. Have you had some just wild moments working some of the security?
Oh gosh, man. I'm laughing because there was way too many when I first got started. Excuse me. Um, oh man, as I've gotten deeper and deeper into what I do, it actually becomes less and less because you're dealing with more professionalism. Um,
Yeah.
I will tell you right now, hands down, if someone from the hip hop world calls me and says, "Hey, I don't care what it costs, I want your company to secure me," I'm going to turn it down. Um, and I don't care who you are. Honestly, I don't. I don't care if you're Drake. I don't care if you're Eminem. I don't care if you're Snoop Dogg. I'm sorry, I'm turning it down. Nothing against those guys. I've actually been around, Snoop a few different times. He's actually been very pleasant to be around. Half the
Yeah.
time, probably because he's, on his own herbs, but
Very high. Yeah.
but but the dude's been awesome. He comes in, he shakes everyone's hands, and introduces himself like he's always been very great. Um, yeah, I'm kind of losing track
What
again.
it, but Well, now why is on the hip hop? Are they just, is it that rowdy, I guess, trying to be their security?
Yeah, man, it's hard because it's not that they're rowdy, it's just you're dealing with the entourage. Usually it's never the client themselves, it's usually the entourage that they surround themselves with. For example, I've never worked with this group. There's a band out there called Migos, and they're known for just kind of being rowdy. They come from that underground rap world. Um, a lot of times their guys are carrying burners on them. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm not gonna put myself around it. And
Yeah.
that's what it seems like you're constantly dealing with is I'm never really worried about the actual client. I'm always worried about what friends they have around them because it never fails. You take them to a club, you gotta go in through a back door, you're getting searched. Next thing you know, it's like, hey, this guy's got a gun on his hip, and then it's like, dude, like, why do you got a gun on your hip? Like, that's why you guys hired me, you know,
Yeah.
or hired the company. So that's what makes it really hard. Going into anything crazy, shoot. I mean, you kind of name it. It's probably happened. I had an instance when I just got into security. I thought I was, God's gift to whatever, right? I'm like, oh man, I'm young, I'm pumped up, I'm ready to go. I got stuck on this job with a couple of guys, and funny enough, it was like a Friday night sports thing, open bar or whatever, here local in Coachella. And if you don't know about the demographics, it's much like any other area. We got our little pockets of gangbangers and different stuff, right?
Yeah.
So these kids show up because they hear that there's a cool event going on, and I go out and I try to be as respectful as I can. I just say, "Hey guys," and they show up. They got tattoos coming down the neck. They got tattoos all over their eyes, and the people that are at this thing, I'm just gonna say it. 60% of them were probably white. I'd say 20% were probably Hispanic, and then mixed after that, right? And
Yeah.
I just tell the kid, hey, this isn't really an event that you guys, for one, are old enough for because you guys all look like you're 18, and that just started the whole thing. Oh, f you, and yada yada. So they, oh, let's get out of here. So they turn around and start walking to their car. I just get a weird feeling. This dude goes to his car, pulls the door open, and pulls out a Mac 9 and literally just starts spraying everywhere. And I mean, I'm like, dude, what the heck's going on? Crap's getting hit everywhere. I mean, they did it to scare people, right? There was no intent, to
Yeah.
really shoot at somebody,
But they're still freaking
just
spraying a gun out here. Yeah.
everywhere, right? Happens to jam. The guy puts his head back in, and I just start to see a butt start coming out the back again. I'm like, oh shoot, it's going for round two. And lucky enough, I was about 15 feet away from the guy at the time. And I don't want to sound like a hero, but it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, someone's gonna get hurt, and PD's not here yet. I literally just didn't think, ran. It was like a movie, man. I just kicked the door hit the dude in the head, he falls, and his friends just take off running. And it was like, okay, couldn't have worked out better, but it could have gone really bad. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
that was one of those times. I've been in music tours where clients have gone from the main stage. I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of people, and they just decide to go. All right, I'm going in, in the stands, or I'm going in the crowd, or next thing you know, they're cloud surfing, and you're just freaking elbowing people and gut punching them just to like get through this crowd. And I mean, literally, your client's over your head, and you're underneath them, just weaving through people left and right. So
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I was fortunate enough to work with the former foreign ambassador of Saudi Arabia, and he's since then has passed away from some health complications. We've done things where we've actually picked up known members of ISIS in the states here in the U.S. I mean, it happened. So yeah, so I mean,
Were
there's
y'all
kind
like
of a,
removing them? Is that what you were doing? Picking them up to remove them? What are you doing with them?
no, so he actually had a residence here in California that he would spend about 6 months at, and then he would spend 6 months back over in Saudi, and so he would float between the two, and he had full diplomatic coverage. So I mean, we could run red lights, we could run, I mean, anything, and it was like cops wouldn't do anything about it. It's
Yeah.
crazy what these guys get, but no, this was just the type of guy that he had a target on his back. He was the foreign ambassador for Saudi for 40 something plus years. And I mean, it was every other week we were, either picking up a stalker or some sort of, known, organized crime member somewhere.
Dang. What's the kind of, when you pick up a stalker, I mean,
Mhm.
what is that scenario? How does that play out? Do you
Um,
take them to the police? I mean, how does that go?
A few different ways. So being civilians in our world, we often have communication with federal law enforcement, or just public law enforcement. So that's always a constant communication role that's happening. I mean, daily, and keeping those relationships are very crucial. So on this one, we actually had a tip off from a federal agent that said, "Hey, we had a couple of red flags pop up. They're in San Francisco. They're trying to board a plane coming into LA. They have travel plans. Your client's name is on these travel plans, and so you just put two and two together. So you're staying in constant communication. We've done things like that. We've done things as far as stalkers. Like for example, like the one I gave earlier. We had a guy that was stalking a former client of ours, and I mean, the dude was just a creeper. I mean, I could go into some details, and it would just blow your mind. And I'm sure we might get in there a little bit later down this podcast. But
Yeah,
the dude was really heavy on social media, so we set up a fake social media account, and put some pictures on there that we found online, and just started saying, "Hey, I'm so and so from this fan club. We should meet up." This guy shows up like 2 days later. We have all this proof on him. We have PD with us, so they wrap him up, and it's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they just get him to
yeah,
spill all of his beans. And they start running their reports, and we find out that he's got other charges from states that he's had, and different things. And like I said, I could go into the details on them, but I mean, most of the time, these guys are guys who should not be on the streets, during the day. I mean, they
yeah,
should be locked up somewhere.
yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite people is old Ted Nugent. And I love he has a little spill. I think it was on maybe Pierce Morgan, and he was talking about repeat offenders.
Yep.
And that's kind of what he was like. I don't even, and the thing about Ted, is wild and crazy as he is, he like knew these statistics. And he was talking about the statistics of people that commit murders are like repeat offenders. These violent crimes that happen, they're repeat offenders. And he had, he blew Pierce's mind because he was like, when that mother is about to get raped, I wish she would turn around and pull out a revolver and shoot the guy 6 times in the chest. And Pierce is like, it's like blowing his mind. But I mean, I'm like agreeing with the guy, like these repeat offenders, and um, but that is a tangent I could really go down.
Oh yeah.
Um, Now, on the you said something earlier too. I want to come back before we go to the kind of darker stuff on the threat assessment. All right, I just thought about this actually about 15 minutes before we got on here. Somebody had sent me an Instagram video, and it's this dude, and I guess it's real. I think North American Rescue or something. I follow them, and they shared. I think it was that page. I can't remember, but it's a dude, and he's gone to like an ATM. He's got a backpack on, and I guess it's ATM. He's doing something. Well, this guy, have you seen it? Like two guys come
I'm
out,
yep.
they take his pack off, and he like pushes one of them. Well, then like 4 or 5 guys come out, and two of them have knives, and looks like one of them is just stabbing the crap out of this guy.
Mhm.
And like that's one of the first things. It's like, okay, I don't know what the guy's situational awareness was. Like I mean, these dudes might have been so hidden that he didn't notice.
Yeah.
But like he was completely caught off guard. I don't even know if he had a weapon. Like it happened really quickly.
Mhm.
Um, but like, is when you say threat assessment, would it be a scenario like that where you go in and you can kind of analyze, okay, there's two dudes standing over there just mysteriously, and there's kind of some here. Is that kind of what you're talking about on that?
Yeah, I mean that's a piece of it. If I'm honest, Logan, that's a very big piece of it. So we call those, for me, I call them pins. A lot of people call them other things, indicators, whatever. Um, you can very much use your threat assessment skills to go into a situation like that and just go, hey, look, let's use some common sense here, right? We're coming in. I don't know what time of day that video was. Obviously, it looked dark. It looked like it was pretty
Yeah,
quiet. So I'm going to say it's later in the evening. Um, if I'm a guy and I know that I don't have any kind of martial arts skills or any kind of self defense skills, or I don't have any kind of weapon on me or anything to protect myself, I'm gonna be a little bit hesitant about going into that tunnel where that ATM was, where it
Yeah.
looked like maybe there was like a tram station or something where,
Yeah.
you could see the gates there. Um, I mean, shoot, I'm gonna look at all that stuff and I'm gonna go, hey, if there's a guy 10 feet to the right of that opening and he's got his foot up on the wall and he's just hanging out, like that's an indicator to me. If there's
Yeah.
a guy to the other side and he's doing the same thing, twiddling his thumbs on his phone, I'm sorry, but at 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, or whatever the time it might have been, that's going to throw a major red flag out. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is a way that you can use those. For me, a threat assessment, when we talk about like doing a threat assessment, we're looking at, okay, let's use farming for instance. Funny enough, we actually just got into some agricultural security out here in the Coachella Valley,
Nice.
because we get a lot of our farmers are getting ripped off, and these guys are coming
Yeah.
in, they're stealing crates of dates, crates of produce, and they're selling them on the corners and making money hand over fist. So taking the outdoor world, we actually set up a bunch of trail cameras all over the place, and we've been snagging license plates and people stealing stuff left and right. And
Heck
we've
yeah.
we've actually cut down on agricultural theft. I think last I heard from the board out here, it was down by like 62%.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome.
So, it's like being aware of what's going on, right? So we could go in and go, okay, where are our hot spots here in the valley? What do we know, up to this point? How are these things being stolen? How big is this property? What are the schematics? How many exits, entries? Where are you guys actually holding your produce? Is it locked up inside of in a refrigerated, building? Is it outside? Are you guys having it
Yeah.
on trucks ready to transport? Those are all things that you could use for a threat assessment. um, Moving it into a venue, we're going into a venue, okay. Threat assessments, I mean, that can go all the way to where's the nearest restroom, how many elevators do you have, are you going to put a team up in the rafters, maybe as a counter sniper team if it's a big event, are we going to run dogs to make sure there's no bombs and drugs throughout the building. I mean, these are all steps and things that go into a threat assessment.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, on a very small scale,
Hmm.
um, personal security for somebody that's listening, because I mean, like a normal guy is not going to hire like an executive protection,
Yep.
but you're an expert in this. What do you advise a normal guy? Like, for example, what I martial arts is not my forte. Like I got
Hmm.
a good buddy that has been trying like hell to get me to do jujitsu. He's a bad dude at it. I got to give him a shout out. Actually, he just won gold. I saw in the gi in New Orleans. They had
Oh,
like
heck
the
yeah.
big IB whatever IBJFF. Is that right?
Probably, yep, yep. They got yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of them now. My professor trains in all different things now too. So I don't know which one was in New Orleans.
Well, it was one of those, but he got gold in gi and silver in no gi,
Got it.
brown belt division. So I got to give him a shout out, my buddy Brent. He kicked some butt, but and that's something I know. Like I've gone and done some Muay Thai stuff with him, which I really enjoyed that.
Hmm.
Um, but I carry my wife probably laughs sometimes, but I know at the end of the day she appreciates it because I carry two blades on me at all times and I'm usually always packing a gun. I'm
Hmm.
obviously not carrying my AR pistol around with me all day,
Yep.
but I have some firepower and two knives. So that's what I'm like, and I carry a switchblade and a fixed blade. Like I actually got into a fixed blade probably about a year ago, and I
Hmm.
love carrying this fixed blade, and I don't use it for anything. Like it is as sharp right now as whenever I first got it. Like I have probably used that knife 10 times in a year. Like, and
Yeah.
it'll be to like cut a piece of tape
Hmm.
because I mean, you want it to be, which sounded funny at me, like at first. And I think it was Bill Rapier. Are you familiar with, I'm not
Yep.
sure if you're familiar with Bill. When I had him on the show, it's one of his blades. It's a Amtac Northman, and dude, I love carrying these. And that's when I went to Vegas. I did not have any weapons because I flew, and I'm not a much of a flyer. I didn't know any. I don't know like how to fly with weapons, and so I mean, I felt more naked than I ever have. I didn't have anything.
Yep.
So what would you tell a guy? Let's kind of go down the different avenues. Like, let's say a dude is in my shoes, does not have martial arts training.
Mhm.
Obviously, it would be good to get that. But like, what would you tell a guy that doesn't have any? How could he manage his personal security? I
So
know
you're
that's
saying,
broad, but
yeah, you're saying from like a client standpoint, right?
like, I mean, just personal. Like, this dude wants to be himself. He wants to feel more secure. He wants to be safer going places. Like, I guess what would you advise him to carry, and how would you advise him to like break down going into a building? Like, what's stuff to look for, like to pay attention to?
So I would say if you're gonna put yourself in the situation to carry, know for one, know how to defend yourself. That's one
Yeah,
of the biggest things I've seen in this industry is everyone goes their first thing is, oh man, I got my my guard card. I can go work security now, right? By the way, that was something that I missed on. We should have touched on. If you want to get into security, you got to start in the right lanes. Get yourself a guard card first. Um,
there you
that's
go.
usually really easy. It's through your state. It's super simple. You could probably do it in less than 6 hours. Some states are a little bit different. Texas, I know, goes a little bit more into the rabbit hole of actually getting you well trained, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Um, but man, for one, I would say some self discipline. Know how to use the tools that are on you. There's so many guys that come into this field that are like, oh man, I'm going to carry a gun, or I get to carry a gun, and they're so gung ho about carrying a gun. Well, man, if somebody comes at you with a bat and you pull a gun out and you've got 15 feet of space between you and you just dump the dude in the street, more oftentimes than not, you're going to go to jail for that. You
yeah,
have, like, but that's what I'm talking about. These guys have these tools, but they actually don't know what it means to use the tool that they have that was either given to them or or is expected of them to have on them. Um,
yeah,
Most guys carry a knife. I'll tell you right now, I am not an expert bladesmith. I am not an expert at blade fighting. Can I do
yeah,
it? Yes. But the way that I've always been told was in a knife fight, more often than not, just know you're going to get cut at some point and you got to be
yeah,
ready for it. Um,
yeah,
so, I would just say, those few things is managing your personal skills and actually knowing how to use the tools that you have on your belt or within your reach.
yeah. That's I'm always shocked at the amount of people that, I mean, around here in Tennessee, a ton of people carry. Like,
Yep.
that's pretty common. We got constitutional carry now. And I'm always shocked when I talk to people that have never, they've been carrying, they may even been carrying for years, and they have never practiced drawing.
Hmm.
And that's one of the craziest things to me. Like, they'll carry in the waistband. I mean, they'll conceal well, like you won't even know they have a gun, but they've never practiced carrying or drawing. And I'm like, dude, you want the first time when you have to draw that weapon to be when your adrenaline is jacked and some dude is like that level of violence is required. Like, you
Oh yeah.
want that to be like, that's all. It blows my mind whenever I hear that.
Yeah. Or even, going to, and again, I'm not going to quote it because I'm going to end up giving you the wrong distances and times and all that stuff. Um, but, someone coming at you with a knife, right? If they're within 10 feet, more oftentimes or not, they're going to get to you quicker with that knife than you can actually draw.
Yeah,
And we're talking about the average person here. And, that's just it is knowing when almost going back to that video. So funny enough, that video that you were talking about, a buddy of mine just sent it to me this morning with the question of, what do you take away from this video? And for me, it was, situational awareness, right? I
yeah,
know that if I'm going in, or let's say that that guy just for whatever reason went into that ATM not thinking, he gets stood up by the two guys. Hey, look, if I know that I can't fight and I know that I don't have anything on me to defend me, guess what? Take the freaking backpack, dude. Like, just take it. I'm going home. I
yeah,
know that I'm going to kiss my wife when I get home and see my kids. Whatever. Suck up the pride. Um,
yeah,
he didn't know that there was two more guys, on the other side of those gates, and it still could have happened that way. I don't know. But I would have just gladly given the dude the backpack and just said, "Hey, walk away with it," because I know that I didn't have the tools to defend myself. Now, if
yeah,
I went into that situation and I could look around, okay, there's nobody around. Yeah, okay, maybe some dude came after me and I have what I have on my belt, that I carry every day. Okay, I know that I could put myself up against a wall probably protect myself and walk away from the situation, unscathed. Um,
Yeah.
and those are some of the things you just got to be real with yourself. We're not all John Wicks out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what like I said, my buddy always rags on me for not doing jujitsu. And I mean, and I tell him, man, I see the benefit of it. Like it's something at some point I'll probably get into. Like I realize that's a good thing. And he's like, man, because I said, well, I've always got weapons on me. So like I've at least got that line. And he's like, yeah, but what if they get to you and you have no weapons? And I'm
Hmm.
like, well, then in my last breath, then I'll say you were right, like as I'm taking my last breath.
Yeah.
But so like, I mean, I see the value, so I'm actually curious, man. Muay Thai or Jiu Jitsu? Which one are you picking?
I'm gonna say jujitsu right now because that's the rabbit hole that I'm going down. um, I've done both. I love both. I would say for what I do in my profession, jujitsu is more beneficial, um, just because of what we have to do. It's people want to be the big, excuse my language, badass dude, right?
Yeah,
they want to be able to walk up to that dude who's just stout and go, oh yeah, I could take him, right? Look, I'm 6'3", I'm 200 pounds on a freaking great day. I mean, I'm not a big dude, but I am confident in my own personal skills. I'm not going to go out and pick a fight. I'm going to use verbal
yeah,
judo whenever I can. Um, hey, if a dude comes over and bumps me at a bar because I'm with a client and he turns and gives me the look like, all right, it's on, guess what? I'm probably going to look at the dude and say, hey, man, I apologize. Let me buy you a beer. Because,
yeah,
for one, if I get into a fight with this guy, I've already now failed at my job, and that was taking my attention off of my client.
yeah.
And um, yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects and different things to it. And again, I know I'm giving you such a long answer to your question, but it's just like you can't answer it with any one particular answer because there's
Yeah.
just so many ways you can answer that.
There is, and I could see from like a subduing point where jujitsu would probably be more beneficial. Like,
Yep.
it's if you could put a guy in like a chokehold or something and really have him subdued in just a matter of seconds versus
Hmm.
having to like, all right, now I'm going to kick this guy in the head until he's knocked out.
Yeah.
Like, it's a much, and you do equalize the field a lot with that. Like I've heard guys talk about, I mean, I'll never forget me and my buddy actually went to a sub shop, Firehouse Subs one day, and there was this guy up there at Firehouse, and he looked like a dork, like for lack of a better word. And my buddy goes, "That dude right there is a straight up killer." And I was like, "What?" And he went up and talked to him, and he said, "Yeah, he's a black belt at the gym up here where I go to." And he said he's nasty. And I mean, like if I had seen him, if I was gonna pick like if I was a bad guy going into a place, that would have been like my first target. And then he would have like beat the hell out of me because he was a black belt.
Very
So
unassuming.
yeah, man, like I've heard them called nerd assassins. Like that's what I've heard like these really bad to the bone jujitsu guys. And honestly, you probably don't even have to be that high of a level because I feel like the guys that are picking these fights and doing these things, a lot of them probably are not trained fighters in pretty much any way.
Yeah.
They're one of them guys that just thinks he's like a bad dude.
Well, and that's the thing. You go to the right gym and you surround yourself with the right people. You're not walking in, like I'm not going to come into your house and be, "Hey, Logan, I've been training jujitsu for 5 years, man. I'm, this level belt. Let's go do some stuff." Like, that's not
Yeah,
it. Most of your high level jujitsu guys are much like your SF guys. You're not going to even know that they have that skill until you actually get to know them for one, or you're
yeah,
just blessed enough to be part of a conversation that someone just happened to say, hey, yeah, I got asked this question. Here's kind of a little bit about my background. Here's what I do, yada, yada. Um, which is another thing that I respect a lot because that's kind of my mentality is I'm very just non-assuming. Yeah, I can be outgoing, but I can also be very introverted. Um,
yeah.
so it's cool because um, someone asked me the other day, and I actually don't remember the gentleman's name, but it was actually at Winter Strong, and he's a big dude. I mean, the guy's like 280 pounds, just solid muscle dude. And somebody asked me, like, "Hey, you as a security guy, like, if that freaking man of a truck is coming at you, like, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, well, for one, I don't know his skill level, but I know for sure I'm not gonna go toe to toe with him. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
already know I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna try to take his back. Like, those are my first two options I'm gonna go for. And if that doesn't work, I'm gonna abort and go for, plan B. So
Yeah.
um
Well, and that would be that's kind of what makes me think about the advantage being with jiu-jitsu versus Muay Thai. Because
mhm,
I feel like with the Muay Thai side, everybody has like that puncher's chance of a knockout.
yep,
Like, so there's a chance you might go toe to toe with this guy, and he may not have any training, but he might just be some, like you say, just a freaking brute, and he happens to catch you on the chin with one, and you're out. So,
yep.
like, I guess that's where you wouldn't necessarily want to be in a striking contest with this guy.
Exactly. Or within an arm's distance. Most of these big dudes, if they don't have a background in any kind of martial arts or haven't had, the opportunity to do it, a lot of times it's going to be smash and grab, right? I mean, they're just going to try to wrap you up. They're going to try to choke you out. I mean, they're going to use their big boy muscles because that's that primal way of getting things done, right? Um,
Yeah.
but being a skilled, martial artist, or even just being a smart human being, and again, use your indicators, man. If this guy's coming at you in an aggressive manner, I mean, posture yourself up to set yourself up in a good position. Do whatever you can to put yourself at that higher ground.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I think about with um carrying a gun, like and it's kind of why I guess one of the really good things to having a martial arts background is the stages of violence.
Hmm.
If you have the arsenal, like what I would see as being a really strong suit with martial arts for me would be, um, all right, I have knives and I have a gun. But I mean, I don't want to kill somebody. Like, I don't
Hmm.
wake up in the morning being like, all right, I want to kill someone or I want to stab somebody today. Like, I don't have those thoughts.
Yep.
So, like, I guess if you have martial arts in your wheelhouse, then some guy's coming at you and you can subdue him without taking it to the next level. Because if I pull a knife, I've already upped the level of violence to that next level. If I pull a gun, then it is to the maximum level of violence. Like, at
There
that
you
point,
go.
like, it's like, whereas from the beginning, it may have been, a fight to a degree of unconsciousness. When you go to those next levels, all right, it's gonna be death. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's gonna be somebody die, and so like that's where I think people don't necessarily understand the value and the different levels that you can have.
Yeah, and it's funny you touch on that because that's how I train my guys um is essentially knowing the level of the threat that is in front of you. If someone comes at you with a bat, are you going to, what are you going to do? You're going to go straight to your gun? More likely not to start with. Now,
Yeah,
can a bat be used as a deadly weapon? 100%. If that guy gets on top of you and he's just wailing down and your last line of defense is a gun, hey, by all means, if you know that you have a threat of life, dude, there's your tool, right? But
yeah,
it's like I tell guys, if someone comes at you with a knife, are you gonna pull a knife? No. Like, I'm sorry. If someone pulls a knife and I bring a gun, don't bring a freaking knife to a gunfight. Like,
yep,
we're gonna
yeah,
end we're gonna end this predicament right now.
yeah,
Now, if someone came at you with some brass knuckles, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna pull my gun out on that. For one, I don't want to give them the pre-notion that I already have something in my arsenal that can, completely take him out. Two,
yeah,
I also don't want to give away the fact that I have a weapon there because then now he knows I have a weapon. I'm gonna have to defend that. And if he's only got
yeah,
brass knuckles, where's he gonna go from there? He's either gonna turn around and walk away because either I was just a fantastic talker at the time, or two, he's gonna go, "Hey, that dude's got a gun on his hip, and you know what? I'm just in that mood today. I'm gonna go fight him. I'm gonna punch him. I'm gonna do whatever I can to get that gun off of him."
yeah,
And that's another part of training is, if someone's coming at you, don't just go straight to covering your gun up. I mean, you're giving away your best option of surprise, basically.
yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a huge thing, man, that people don't necessarily put enough value on. And yeah, like you said, I mean, be smart about it. Yeah, if a dude comes at me with a knife, he's already put it to that level. And
Yep,
so at that point, I mean, I'm going to respond with more violence to the level of their violence. Like, if that makes
exactly.
sense. Like that's how, like, if he's coming at me with that, then I'm gonna be the superior firepower. Like the old classic, I got a good friend that was in the Marines, and like one of their old sayings is "He who has more firepower wins,"
Yep.
and like that's kind of the way that I see it. Which is, like I said, I mean that's why I love carrying this AR in my truck. Like I hope I never have to use it, but I have that and a couple of mags, so it's like used to I carried a Glock 17, so I'd have 17 rounds or so.
Yep.
Now I've got about with that rifle plus the other mags, I got like 90 rounds. So it's like, all
Yeah.
right, I've got the firepower. If I ever need more than 90 rounds in a truck shootout, then I am in one hell of a truck shootout that I don't need to be in anyway. So,
That's
uh,
some freaking Benny Clyde stuff right there, man.
yeah, yeah, it is.
But, no,
Um,
like you're saying, but also too, having that rifle, you now have a longer platform, to use. You're more accurate, and that's another thing that these politicians don't understand. It's like, "Oh, well," you know, and they always get it wrong, right? It's AR-4, AR, 18, like, they're coming up with these.
17, yeah,
Yeah, it's like, dang, well, we talking about Air Force jets now. Um,
yeah,
but, it's like, why does anyone need this? Why does anyone need that? And then, usually there's a bunch of memes that follow that, and it's like a 12-year-old girl just rocking an AR. I mean, just dropping bullseye after bullseye. And then she grabs a pistol and she's decent, but not great.
yeah,
And it's like, well,
yeah,
here you go, and that's just a
yeah,
12-year-old. Now put that gun in someone that's got some actual training. That thing becomes a deadly weapon. For one, obviously, it's a deadly weapon, but now you become extremely accurate and you have a weapon on you that you're comfortable with. You know, yeah, people can shoot 50 yards with a pistol, but I mean, you're shooting a freaking target that's, yay big,
yeah,
right? I mean, your group's not going to
yeah,
be small. I don't care who you are. So
yep.
you put that rifle in your hand, now you're good to go.
Yeah, and I like it when they try to say the ARs. I mean, it's annoying to me. I'm not gonna say I like it, but it always kind of trips me out because um, they'll try to act like handguns should be all that anyone needs,
Yep.
but statistically speaking, handguns are used in more crimes than ARs, shotguns, or anything. Handguns are like the if any one gun was involved in more murders in the United States, it's a handgun.
Yep.
So it's like your statistics don't even back up like your theories, like
Yeah.
what they're trying to use. So I
Well,
always get a kick out of that.
and the funny part about that is on top of all those are knives. I mean,
Yeah.
more violent crimes are committed every year with just a knife. I mean, it literally supersedes the percentage of what's actually being used on the gun side and knife side.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, man, it's just what it's a people issue, man. Like it is like we said really early in the show, weapons are tools. Like they're all just tools. I mean, a people will use anything to their like the person that's gonna decide that like whoever's decided they're gonna go do a mass shooting.
Mhm.
If there's no guns around, they're gonna drive their car into a crowd. I mean, like this is the kind of stuff you see it. We see it in countries where they don't have guns. Like
Mhm.
what was it, England or somewhere? A dude was running around with like a machete, like
Yep.
chopping people with a machete.
Yep.
It's like I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I had to get shot or chopped with a machete, I think I'd rather get shot. Like
Yeah.
if I had to
Heck
pick.
yeah. Heck yeah,
So
man. Any day of the week.
yeah, like it's nuts. Now, all right, I want to get into something that is the really wild part. Like we've talked about the cool aspects. People have heard. I mean, you've worked with some very high level clients.
Yep.
Like people would absolutely know their names. So it sounds awesome. But now you want to phase out of the Hollywood kind of world. Now, tell people why. Because from somebody listening that might want to get into it, that might sound, like for me, if someone was like, man, you can be Brad Pitt security, I'm like, man, that sounds like the pinnacle of security. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You were telling me the other night, I mean, tell people why this side is really not as awesome as it sounds.
Oh man, it's for one, everyone knows Hollywood, right? I mean, it's a steeple when it comes to entertainment. What people don't know, and maybe some people do because it's becoming more and more, exposed in today's world, due to social media. But we call it Holly Weird, and it's called Holly Weird for
Yeah.
a reason. For a reason, it's a dark place, and I think I even put this on our message chain that we were going back and forth with. It's honestly a black hole for souls, is what I call it, and some of these things, and to be respectful, because I have a couple of NDAs that are still in effect, and I won't really touch on the actual name. Um, for one, I've never worked with, and this is me speaking. I'm not, speaking for all of Hollywood. I've never once worked with a Hollywood client that does not have some deeper, darker demon secret in the closet. Um,
Yeah.
and that could be in many shapes or forms. And what I mean by that is I had a client, and I can't really give out her age or different things because it'll probably lead on to the point of where you know who she is. She's actually fantastic. If I had the opportunity, actually, the guy who's with her still was the guy that I left in charge, and I just had a different path that I wanted to take from this client, and it just didn't work out. But her as a client itself, she was amazing. Um, she suffered from a lot of medical issues, a lot of mental issues. Ended up during one of our stints, completely, honestly, just kind of blacking out, and was having I forget what they called it, but it was like a depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, something disorder. Like, it was like
Dang.
a mixture of things, right? And
Yeah.
look, it was a medical issue, right? So I'm the one that's there. I'm dealing with it. I mean, she literally fired me 36 times in one day. I mean, I can't make this up. Um, but then you have, the mental side of it with the drug use. And so you're dealing
Yeah.
with these clients who are just constantly on blow, smoking weed. Where can they find the next ecstasy pill? Where can they get the next Vicodin pill? Um, it's like Robin Williams, right? Like, everybody thought that
Yep.
he was the happiest and coolest dude in the world. I've actually been fortunate enough to meet him on many different occasions, and when I saw him, I mean, it was like the room lit up, right? I mean, the guy just had that persona to him, but then he would go home and he was one of the most depressed guys in the world. I knew his
Yeah.
assistant at the time, and um, I mean, if you bring up the situation or the subject, she'll still, to this day, she'll just go right into full on tears, because she was like, none of us knew what he was actually struggling with.
Yeah.
And and that's, again, I mean, how many smiles did that guy put on people's faces, through his movies, his commentaries, I mean, all different kinds of things. Um, I had another client, and this goes back to the rap world. So I walk in, I take this guy to a Tupac film that they just redid, and we walk into this private studio, and I see him go over, and he's fist pumping and giving the bro hugs. He's, "What's up, guys?" All this stuff, right? And I'm just kind of standing off the back, and I see him walk into the restroom. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm a grown man. He's a grown man. I know that's my client, and I knew, because I had just checked, the restroom was completely empty. Well, he walks
Yeah.
in, 2 more guys walk in, which I just saw him say what's up to. He comes flying out of the restroom. He's like, "Dustin, what the hell, dude? Like, you just let 2 guys walk into the bathroom with me in here while I'm by myself." And I go, "Sir, with all due respect, I saw you just give those 2 guys hugs. I've been with you for multiple years now, and I've seen them at many occasions. I knew that there was no threat there." And he
Yeah.
just started, like, he was pissed, but then I called him on it, and then he just smiles and goes, "Ah, that's why I like you." I'm like, "Dude," I mean, the guy put me on the spot in front of about 50 different people, I mean, at the top of his lungs, and,
Yeah.
it's like you're just constantly dealing with all these different things. And it's staying out till wee hours in the morning, 3, 4, 5 a.m. Your clients are, dealing blow. They're, trying to get with the next best score. They're, "Hey, don't tell my wife this," or, "Hey, don't do this." And it's like, just me as a moral man and being married, it's just like, I can't do this day in and day out, and nor do I want my guys to do it. I don't care if it makes me the richest man in the world. It's just like, it if that's the type of business I don't want to do, I'm not going to put myself around it.
Yeah.
And I've always been firm and really taken to heart that you surround yourself with like-minded people, right? And one of the best decisions I made, and even though I still have a few clients in that realm, they're at a different level. And to this day, one of the best decisions I've made was to kind of start that transition out of the whole Hollywood side. And I've had more opportunities since then than I have when I was just full blown in the mix of things.
Really.
Um, oh yeah. Um, some more dirty side details. We were talking about it, and again, I'll be respectful because a lot of people view this guy as a moral judge of character. I mean, a lot of his films are based around religion and different things, and I know firsthand that this guy who proclaims himself as a Christian male in our world literally brings back 18 to 25-year-old boys to his house. I
Yeah.
mean, that's Logan, if I could tell you how many times I've seen that or heard of it, I mean, it just makes me sick. Like, I have kids, right? My kids are 12 and 10, and I get it. These kids are of legal age, but man, like, as that public figure and you're proclaiming to be a Christian male, like, I can't be around that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just one person. I mean, it happens. I found out about a thing not too long ago, and actually, I've never really said much about it. And this is probably something a lot of people don't know about. So you have, Hollywood's known for a bunch of different things, right? But one of them is the Playboy Mansion. Um,
Yeah.
so they have this thing that they call the circuit, and I just learned about it. A bunch of CEOs and executives are, they all get this pamphlet every year, and it's essentially the centerfold girls for Playboy. When they're done with that, they go on what they call a circuit, and essentially they become a very highly paid escort service. Now
Mm,
you can put two
yeah.
and two together on where that goes. I can tell
Yeah.
you right now that there's probably more people involved with that you actually know than you think. And that's just one of them. I mean, I
Yeah.
can I can go on and on and on about the crap that I see in this line of work that it's just, man, it's mind-boggling.
Do you do you think that some of these people are actually start out good and like they get to this level, um and probably kind of tying it even with Robin Williams. These guys get in this realm and they're actually like a normal, good person. Maybe they even have these like moral grounds and stuff as they start.
Mhm.
And they start achieving this fame and this notoriety and all this stuff. And I mean, people are like, screaming their names and like fired up about them. And I mean, I'm sure to a degree that gets addicting, but it's like a hollow praise, like it's almost, I feel like it'd be something where you always needed more and more and more. And it becomes like a high, I would imagine. Like you said, they're doing drugs. From my perspective, or from a lot of normal people just looking in, I mean, these people, they're super famous. They got enough money. They can buy anything. Like,
Mhm.
from the American standpoint, they are like, they have achieved everybody's dream. They've got the power, the fame, and the money, and they are insanely unhappy. Like, so do you think that they get into it? I mean, I'm sure there's some that get into it that suck when they get into it, but like, do you think some of them get into it that are actually good and this stuff just literally morphs them into this like soulless creature?
100%. And that's why you're seeing right now. And again, I don't know Joe Rogan on a personal basis. I've had the pleasure of meeting him because of the work capacity that I'm in. Fantastic guy. I know a ton of people who know him very well. They
Yeah.
all say the same thing, right? That guy was in Hollywood, living in Hollywood. I mean, literally uprooted his whole family and moved to Texas. And I'm not going to say for that reason, but I know that that was a big reason on why he made the move. He touches on it a little bit in some of his podcasts, but he just got tired of. And again, I can't speak for him, but from what I gathered, he got tired of exactly what you're talking about. That Hollywood persona of you just, basically you can never stop. And
Yeah.
you don't have a life, and that's what I got a little brother right now that's trying to get into the acting world, and my first conversation with him was like a 2-hour long conversation of, "Hey, look, like if this is something you want to do, I'm going to do what I can to help you, but you got to know like here's the dirty side of what I've seen." And when I just
Yeah.
started going down this stuff, he was like, his eyes lit up. He was like, "Well, man, are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude," because he went to a Christian high school, went to a Christian college. I mean, he's not dumb by all means. He knows what the world has in it, right? But he had
Yeah.
never lived in Hollywood. And that my biggest fear as a brother to him is seeing all the stuff that I've seen. And again, to go back to what you're talking about, you have like your Justin Timberlakes, like he moved out to Montana. Yeah, he moved out to a place that's pretty ritzy and it's luxurious and whatever. But the point is he got out of LA to raise his kids because he didn't want his kids around it. Um,
Yeah.
I think there are a ton of people that get into acting because they love acting as a career. And then I think once they get into, like you said, they get into LA, they get morphed into this persona of I have to go out and party on Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. I have to go out and do this because I have to keep my face and my name, relevant.
Yeah.
Whether it's positive or negative, like you see, the Paul brothers, Jake Paul, like people hate the dude, right? But at the end of the day, the guy has set up a market for himself to be very lucrative. And dude, I'll be honest, I had a conversation with the dude a couple weeks ago at a press conference. He ain't a bad dude.
Yeah.
He might do some stupid stuff, and he knows he's doing stupid stuff, but he's creating a market for himself. And again, whether it's the right way or wrong way, which I mean, we can all give our opinions on that. Hey,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't knock the dude. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of people that get into that industry and they just, very quickly get morphed into that, um, that kind of limelight. And we joke around about it, and I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for this, but um, we kind of say that if you're not Jewish, or if you're not gay, or if you're not Jewish and gay, you have no purpose of being in LA. And
Yeah.
dude, I might get a ton of backlash for that comment if it comes out on this, but I'm going to tell you right now, you look at follow the money, right? And if you follow the paper trail, most of the time, your entities that are going to be backed behind all of Hollywood are going to be some sort of organization that either was funded or is currently funded by a Jewish family, or something of that sort. Awesome, great. I have no problem with
Yeah.
that. But that is who runs the Hollywood kind of world.
I, I've never actually understood that. I remember I watched some documentary a while back, and I think it was talking about like Spielberg and several of these others, and I'm pretty sure he's Jewish and
Hmm.
or something. But it was talking about how, I mean, the Jews essentially run Hollywood, and like I think they started doing that even back in the '60s era or something, and they've
Yep.
like dominated Hollywood, and it's just so strange. I can't understand why. Like again, I'm not hating on Jews,
No,
but
not at
it's like
all.
I wonder why. Like, do you have any idea why?
To be honest, I have no idea. It's kind of like, again, and not being racist. It's like Asians being crazy smart in the tech world. Like, why are they
Yeah,
the only ones that are crazy smart in the tech world? I'm sure there's others, but that's not my world. I can't go into depth about it. But you know, they're known for being the techie people, right?
yeah,
It seems like Jewish people are known for being wealthy and having money. Like they're jewelers, they're part of Hollywood, they're whatever, right? And I don't know why they do it, to be honest. And that's just the short
yeah.
answer to
I must have no Jew in me then, because if like having money is part of it.
it. And that's all right because you're a humble dude.
Hey, I try to be. I try to just be real. Um, now that all of that kind of ties into something. I've been listening to the book. I listen to a lot of books. Have you read or listened to Red Handed? I think it's by Peter Schweizer.
No, and someone just told me about this the other day, and it sounded super interesting. And I actually have it in my note right here to look it up.
Well, definitely recommend it. Um, man, it's been crazy. I'm actually, dang, got some good thunder right
There
there.
we go.
Um, this the red handed. I'm making the liberal heads mad apparently. But man, it's been crazy to hear about all of the people, especially in our political world, that are tied in with China.
Hmm.
And I kind of tie this in even with the Hollywood and all that. And I see it in the ag world terrible. Money, man, money is like the poison of everything. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you need money. Like I'm not saying people don't need money. You need money to survive, and I mean, with a certain level of money comes freedom aspect. Like I've heard Joe Rogan talk about. He said he has fu money, where
Yeah.
like he can say what he wants to say. I mean, do what he wants to do. But um, with farming, we see it. It's super cutthroat. We have big farmers that'll run out little guys just to keep picking up the ground.
Yep.
They're the biggest thorn in my side, and like drives me nuts. And it's
Yep.
like greed. And so it's been wild to read this book uh, and listen to it. I mean, it's politicians that at some of the highest level. I mean, the Biden family they were like the first ones. Like the book kind of goes through different people. And
Mhm.
I will say, I've only got 2 hours left. Donald Trump is not been in bed with China. Like it's been pretty wild. And there's a lot of Republicans that are like, it's not a book that's aimed at Democrats.
Yeah.
Like it has Biden, and then it has Mitch McConnell
Oh,
is
dang.
another one. Yeah, he's like linked with him. His wife is actually her family. She's Chinese, and her family's like a part of the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP or whatever. Um, but Hunter Biden, Hunter's, when he was done smoking Parmesan cheese
Yep.
off the floor there, he was also doing a ton of crazy dealings with China. Um, Hunter, Jill, James, and Joe all have been in bed. That's James is Joe's brother and Jill's his wife.
Mhm.
All of them have been in bed with China. And it's like, man, and yeah, then Mitch McConnell, somebody that worked under Bush, like one of it might have been the Sec Def under Bush is like tight with China. And I mean, Elon Musk has really been praising him, and I like a lot of Elon. Like Elon, I like him in a lot of areas, but now I'm
Yeah.
like he's real tight with him in China, and
Mhm.
it's just, dude, money, man. Money is just like it's crazy to me to hear these people that are supposed to love our country be like in positions of power in our country,
Yep.
and then you find out they're in bed with China, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
dude, money, money.
Like I said, you follow the paper trail, right? Um, and that goes back to even in the Hollywood world, man, is money controls everything, right? Like, how do you make a movie? Money. How do you make a TV
Yeah,
show? Money. I mean, you can't get around it. And even in the political world, that even flows into the Hollywood, side of things. I mean, it's so political that we had again another client. I'm going to be respectful. We're in the car, and she happened to put out a statement that didn't single out any one race, gender, whatever you want to ID yourself with, but it also didn't direct, like, it was weird. It was like an indirect comment that
yeah,
happened to be she had just found. I'll be straightforward. She had just found Christ. She started going to
yeah,
church, was loving what she was doing, and put out a statement about something that was just like, "Hey, look, I love everybody for who they are."
yeah.
Obviously she had to be political, right? Because she's in the Hollywood limelight.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and that's the thing is everybody is at some way, shape, or form silenced about what they actually want to say in Hollywood. You can't just freely. There's no freedom of speech in Hollywood. I'll put it that way.
yeah,
So this girl's management calls and goes, "Hey, I need you to go out on public and put out a statement that says that no, you actually love everybody, whether they're black, white, purple, brown, yellow, gay, straight, lesbian, transgender, whatever." And she's like, "Why? Why do I need to put that out there?" She's like, "Well, you just told everyone that you found Jesus, but now you're saying, according to the Bible, it's not okay to be gay and it's not okay to do this." And this is coming from her manager, right? Who I later found out was an atheist.
yeah.
And
Of course.
and I actually felt super proud to be in the car at that moment because my client puts her on speakerphone for one and goes, "I'm going to do this so that everybody hears me say it. If you call me again and ask me to put out a statement against what I physically believe in, you're going to be done as my manager and I'm going to go find a new one." And she hung up the phone.
Nice.
That was the last we heard of it. And
Yeah.
she continued to get crap for 1 to 2 more weeks after that. I mean, we had people showing up at the house, we had random cars coming by, we had hate mail, we had all kinds of stuff coming out. All of a sudden, it just died off. Like
Yeah.
2 weeks later, just went away because they realized they weren't gonna get what they wanted from her, and she held her ground. That was it.
Why do more people not realize that? like that's something that I've always not understood in Hollywood, especially. I'm like, who? One, I've always like, who in the world has this much power over like The Rock, for example. The Rock, his films are wildly successful. His tequila line is like he has surpassed whatever that George Clooney's line. Like he's liable
Mhm.
to sell his tequila line for like $1 billion. I mean, something
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, so the dude has money is not an issue for
Yep.
The Rock, and he's got a huge fan base. And like when Joe went under all that heat, The Rock came out and he was like, "Man, well said. I'm looking forward to having a drink with you on the show."
Yeah.
Well, then somebody came out and showed The Rock like the compilation video of Joe using the N word
Mhm.
in context, like he used it in there. I'm not condoning that. Like I'm not gonna use it even in context.
Yeah.
But like it, and then The Rock immediately backstepped and was like, "Oh yeah, man, no, no, no." He like removed his support of Joe, and I'm like, dude. And then people started pulling up videos of The Rock, like
Yep.
pretending to be Chinese and stuff, like on the and so, dude, that one of the things that has always been what I think made Joe so successful, and he kind of almost messed up this here recently, is Joe just never throws him a bone. Like
Mm.
when they would be like I'll never forget some chick, she was overweight, and I guess she does like OnlyFans or something, and
Mhm.
somebody was on Joe's show and they were like, "Yeah, I'm on her OnlyFans," and Joe was like, "Who is she?" And they showed it, and he was like, "Oh man, she's fat." Like I think he was like, "She's a fat chick" or
Yeah.
something. And she made like this big video and put it out, and it like went. And some of the news things were like Joe Rogan's body shaming this woman. Joe never said a word about it, and it
Yeah.
just went away. Like it just went away. Like, and that's the thing with these people. Like you really can't like be like, oh, "Okay, I'm sorry for what I said," because they don't actually want you to say you're sorry.
No.
They just want you to be silenced to never be able to speak again. And
100%.
that's what I wish more people, like you said, if she stood her ground and it eventually went away. That's like,
Mhm.
Chris Pratt. I love Chris Pratt because he'll put out stuff. Like I loved one of them. He has some lambs or something, and he shared like his lambs, and then like the next thing was like lamb chops, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Here's my lambs now," and people were freaking out, but he just ignored it and it went away. Like why can't or one, why can't they do that more? And two, who in the crap has this much control over these people?
Yeah, and here's the thing with Chris is a lot of people don't realize, like, everyone gets their information from these things right here, right?
Yep.
Everyone wants to just Google or Doctor Google or whatever, and all their information comes from Google or Instagram or Twitter, whatever it is nowadays, and they get this false sense of ID. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And so you have like Chris Pratt, like, well, if you know anything about Chris Pratt, you actually know that he comes from a long line of sheep herders and
Yeah.
farmers. I mean, this isn't just something that he decided one day, I'm going to go buy some property and, get some sheep. Like he's been
Yeah.
doing it for a long time. And, and his dad before him. So that's another thing that gets me like super riled up is like do your research, before you open your mouth and actually start trying to ruin somebody's day or somebody's reputation, actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But and it's not really one organization in LA. It's kind of like I like to I like to refer to LA as a person, and it's like all of these entities kind of just like rally together. And if you're not part of one of those entities, like you're an outcast.
Yeah.
Um, and what I mean by that is, it's like if you're not an actor or like an organization like WME, which is William Morris Endeavor, one of the biggest talent agencies in the world. Great people, have a lot of clients there. Um, but they're a heavy hitter when it comes to the entertainment world. Then
Yeah.
you have like your CAAs, like your creative agent, creative artist agency, which is another massive talent agency. So like you have all these conglomerates everywhere that all just kind of band together, and it's like if you speak about one thing that they're maybe positive about and you're negative about, dude, forget it. Like you're already
Yeah.
done. You're done.
Yep.
So it's not really one organization, although you will get attacked by specific organizations. And
Yeah.
usually the ones that do attack you are like the ones that are attacking everybody. So it's like you just got to be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the worst thing they can do is apologize. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just that's the worst thing you can do. I mean, because then they kind of, one, they feel like they've gotten a victory over you,
Hmm.
and then it just never stops. Like I said, like with Pratt, like I've seen him, he got attacked because he goes to church, and it was like something again with the gay thing, LGBT thing. They
Hmm.
came after him, and I mean, he put out something like, we welcome everybody in our church or something,
Yeah.
and it's wild that how it's one of the crazy things to me. And you mentioned Justin Timberlake earlier. He
Hmm.
he actually was born and grew up about 20 minutes from here,
Hmm.
where I live. Like, he was in Millington, I'm in Munford. So I mean, he's right down from here. Now, I mean, I his Tennessee views, from what I've seen, are they're way in the rear view. I think he traveled here to vote for Hillary Clinton in the election. So I tell people that I canceled his vote out whenever that happened. But Justin, he's I've heard him say he's a vegan and all this. Well, I'll be honest, I've actually heard some people say that he's hunts. And there's been some other people, as I've gotten into the podcasting world, I've found out some of these really big name, like, actors and celebrities, they'll get up and they'll condemn, like, hunting, and they'll support PETA, and then hell, they go hunting. Like, you find out that they actually hunt and they do these things, and it frustrates me because I'm like, man, if you would come forward and just stand up and say, you know what, like, this is something I like to do. I'm passionate about it. Like, it's not wrong to be a hunter and all this stuff.
Hmm.
Dude, think of the support that would bring to, like, even the hunting world. And
Yeah.
I mean, like, and they're gonna gain supporters. Like whenever Chris Pratt or somebody, if they defend their faith to somebody, man, I like support them twice as much after that.
Yeah. No, it's funny you actually bring that subject up. I was just reading. I don't know if you had a chance to meet Rihanna from Mountain Ops.
No, I've seen her on Instagram, but I have not met her.
So Rihanna actually put something out on her Instagram. I think it was yesterday, and she went into depth a little bit about how she actually used to be a part of PETA. And
Really?
yeah, and I actually did not know this about her. I had the opportunity to hunt with her and Amanda, Burt, and a couple of guys with Big Chino Outfitters in Arizona last year.
Yeah.
Probably one of the funnest times I'd ever had, and just that had never crossed my mind that she was a part of some sort of organization like that. I mean, this girl, like, they were doing stalks in the middle of the sun for like 2.5 hours. And I mean, just loving it, just loving it. I
Yeah.
mean, just for the thrill of it, everything, right? And then I see this post yesterday. I'm like, wait, what? Like, you used to be part of PETA? Like, but someone went to her or she went to someone. I can't remember how it worked. She got the opportunity, learned about the actual sport and about, um, you know, just being an overall hunter and being in conservation and helping the land and what we actually do. Like, we're not out there just to freaking kill animals and hey,
Yeah.
that's awesome, right? Like, I was always taught from the first time I ever went hunting with my pops, like, whatever you pull the trigger on, like, you're gonna eat it. Now,
Yep.
unless we're doing some predator control or something like that. Um, that's what I was always told. So it was like we always hunted during hunting season, never outside of hunting season, all this stuff, right? And as kids, it was like, dude, if we shot something like a rabbit, like, okay, what are you gonna do with it? Well, I don't really like rat. Well, hey, you shot it. Like, what are you gonna do with it? Like,
Yeah.
we're not gonna waste it, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
um, so that was the way I was brought up on that stuff. But yeah, going back to that whole thing, it's like, I feel like so many people just jump to conclusions about, hunting, even from the Hollywood world. You have PETA, you have all of these people who just attack hunters because it's like, oh, you shot, Baloo the bear. And it's like, yeah, but what you also don't know is Baloo the bear is going to feed my family for months on end. and it's actually really great meat. Like, and there's an
Yeah. Yep.
overpopulation of bears here in California that, Fish and Game right now, like we get to shoot a certain amount a year, and when that quota hits, bear hunting's done. Like, it's
Yeah.
not by unit, it's not by season. You get from, I think it's like maybe the beginning of September through the 1st of January. And if you hit that quota anywhere in between that, you're done. So
Yeah.
a lot of these people don't know that that quota is in place. So they think we're just out there, just wrecking havoc on, our habitat, when in reality, we're probably doing way more benefit, to the habitat than we are, detriment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're doing way more benefit than PETA
Like,
is. I mean, that's what these people, they always kill me when they don't realize. I mean, there are biologists that study these things. Like, this is
mhm,
what their job is. Like,
mhm.
um, it's not emotion based. And I killed a pretty cool buck a few years ago, and he was a cryptorchid. He was kind of a rare buck, and he was about 7.5 years old, and um, it went pretty widespread, and I got a lot of flack. I got a lot of support. People were like pumped, but then I get them crazy PETA wackos, and I mean, there was people that wanted to kill me
Oh
because
yeah,
I had killed this buck. And I mean, these people have this really weird idea that these deer, like, they spend their lives, they frolic in the field, and they have, like, they feel great, there's no predators after them, and then they reach an old age and they go and lay down in like a shady spot under a tree, and then they pass away to heaven.
yep,
And it's like ignoring the fact of the disease. I mean, we whitetail, for example, is like a huge one. They've grown so much that now we have CWD like everywhere, like just
yeah,
about. I mean, this is almost nature's way of trying to balance the herd out because there's too many. So
yeah,
it's like, would you rather these animals get a disease that essentially rots their brain and makes them like suffer and die, or would you
mhm.
rather them actually get shot, killed instantly, and be eaten and used? Like, I don't know, man. Now, some of these PETA folks, they might would rather them like die of a disease, but not me.
Yeah. Nah, 100%. I hear you on that one. It just makes me laugh at like some of the ways that these people think, because there's literally no logic to it. Like, it's
Yeah,
like they took common sense out of the equation and just said, all right, I'm going to take common sense, I'm going to take logic out, and this is what I believe in. And it's like,
yep,
okay, but what's your reasoning? Well, they don't have a reason because they took the commonality and the logistics out of it, or not logistics, but the logical part out of it. And now it's like they have no room to back it. And usually you can sit there and go toe to toe with these people for hours, but if you notice, your conversation just goes like this,
yep,
in a circle. You never get
yep.
anywhere because they can't actually go toe to toe with you.
Well,
Or you,
yeah,
you get to the point where you just shut them down completely, and then it's like, oh well, I hate you now. Don't talk to me.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you really can't argue. You can't argue facts with emotion, and that's the hard part. These people are not running off of facts. It's emotion driven.
Yep.
Um, and I don't think you'll ever get anywhere that way.
Nope.
Um, so,
A- And that's
man,
it's funny. You actually just touched on that. It's emotional driven, and I'm sorry, I keep going back to this whole Hollywood thing. That is exactly where that whole city and way of thinking and idea is. Everything is emotional based, and it's like
yeah,
these kids, and I say kids, I'm just talking about people in general. It's like, dude, you can't get your news from Instagram. I'm sorry, you can't. Like, you
yeah,
got to go out and experience the world. You can't just, oh well, this person said this, so that's what I'm going to believe. It's like The Rock. Um, I'll be honest. Again, he's another guy that I've been really fortunate enough to meet on many different occasions. Always has been very, very polite.
yeah,
To the T, the guy would come. I mean, you see what he's doing. He's giving his trucks away to just random people. And
yeah,
yeah, okay, yeah, he's putting it on film, and people are seeing what he's doing. And is he using that for his personal gain? Probably. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, why
yeah,
else would you film it, right? If I'm gonna go help
yeah,
a bum, I'm not gonna put it on social media. I'm gonna go help a bum because I want to help him.
yeah.
But everyone just gets this, this way of thinking. Everything's emotional. It's like no one gets concrete information anymore.
Yep. Yeah, that's why The Rock is one of the ones that has frustrated me the most because he seems like such a great guy that like I'm like, man, stop giving in to the freaking mob, like the woke
Mhm,
mob. I mean,
mhm.
it kills me. He's like this freaking giant beast dude that's super nice and his movies are doing awesome. And I mean, I was a fan of which I actually grew up hating him. I was a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan,
Oh, there
so
you
like,
go.
they were rivals. So I
Heck
grew up
yeah.
hating The Rock, but I mean, I liked him from the fact that I had like known who he was from back in the
Yeah,
day, and that's what I'm like, man, just stop giving in. Like you're losing ground by doing this.
yep.
And I mean, The Rock, he's just he's just one on. But I mean, I do feel like from what I've seen, yeah, he's probably a good dude. Um, now the one that I got to know if he's a good guy or not. Um, if you've met him, and I know he's had some kooky things in the past, but what about old Mel Gibson, man? Is old Mel
Man,
all right?
old Mel. Man, so actually, I'll be honest, I've only been around him, like, one time, so I can't really give you, like, a good feeling for the guy, I guess, because it was so, like, short in time. Um,
Yeah,
all I know is as I was working an event, I had a client, and he wanted to actually meet the client that I was with. And so he kind of comes walking by, and I don't really get starstruck, to be honest. Like, I was more starstruck going to Winter Strong and actually seeing people in the world of like the outdoors and fitness because that's what I love. Um,
yeah,
I do that with people in the security world because that's what I love. But like
yeah.
with Mel, it was just funny because he comes walking by, and I feel this little tug on my shoulder, and I look over, and he's got his beard at the time, and I was kind of like taken back. I'm like looking at him. I'm like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Gibson, how are you, sir?" I'm like, "Apologies, did I step in front of you? I thought maybe I had like moved wrong or something." He goes, "No, no, no." He goes, "Are you with that client?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can I meet her?" I'm like, "Hey, man, by all means." I'm like, "Hold on one second." So I lean over and kind of tap my client, and I'm like, "Hey, Mel Gibson wants to meet you." She's like, "Well, where is he?" And no, like, little does she know he's right behind me. So I kind of
Right
just
here,
step out
yeah.
of the way, and they see eye to eye. And I mean, it was pretty cool. And like I said, the guy, at the end of the night, like fist pumped me. He's like, "Oh man, that was so awesome! You just made my day." And I was like, "Wait a minute, I just made Mel Gibson's day?" Like, you know? So yeah, so I would say I've heard horror stories. I've heard great things. My personal experience with the guy was awesome. So
Yeah.
I can't say anything else outside of that.
Well, I gotta ask, man, can you share one of the horror stories?
Whew, man. I mean, there's too many of them. Is the thing. We're going into the whole like drug use, right? Or let's just say let's go into the glamour of it. That might be a good subject.
Yeah.
um, you get some of these clients that you become an accessory. And what I mean by that is, as a security agent, there are a certain group of clients out there, some families, if you catch my drift, that view security as an object or like an accessory. So, like, to them, you're a
Yeah.
purse or you're a dog or you're a, hey, can you hold my bags from Saks Fifth Avenue? Um, and to those, like, to that extent, that's always the one that I just like, oh, it boils my blood. It just
Yeah.
boils my blood because they absolutely just they see you as low as dog crap. I mean, it
Yeah.
honestly they do, but they still pay what they want because they want that look whenever they're out and about, in town. Um, I've had a certain group of this family walk into a restaurant one time, and literally her table wasn't ready, and it was like, "Where's the owner?" I mean, in front of the whole restaurant. Why isn't my table available? Why, that I come here every day on Tuesday at this time, and yeah, and the owner's like, wow, I've never seen this before. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'll get it ready right now. And she's, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm gonna leave. I'll come back. Just make sure it's ready on the next one. I'm like,
Dang.
Jesus,
Yeah.
like, and as she walks out, I turn around and I kind of give the guy like, hey man, I'm so sorry. Like, I apologize, whatever. So like, you're dealing with just personalities like that all the time that it's just honestly, it's embarrassing for one.
Yeah. That
Um,
would be.
yeah, and then you have like the horror side of like there's a client, and I can talk about this one because I just and I could be wrong. I know people that have had great experience with her. I don't know if you know Dak Shepard and Kristen Bell.
Yeah.
I've done 4 different events where Kristen Bell has been present, and I will tell you right now, she was the worst person I have ever dealt with. I mean, you talk about the most degrading, and again, if anyone's listening that knows her and they know her differently, please speak up because my 4 times I was with her were horrible. Um, I mean, she came in one night. We're doing this event for another big actress that she supports. They're good friends with, and it's kind of like a community event for moms who are underprivileged. And they're giving away these. It's a big fundraiser. So you have your who's who of Hollywood, dump in hundreds of thousands of dollars, and their take home like giveaway bags were probably a good 20 grand a piece. I mean, like they had some
Wow.
really expensive stuff in them. Um,
Yeah.
and we were told, securing the whole event, like, hey, make sure none of the staff leave with these bags. Well, I turn around or I get a call on the radio actually, and guys like, hey, there's 4 or 5 employees walking out with these bags. I'm like, all right, just do me a favor, be very polite, just hold them at the gate. I'll come over and talk to them. So I go over, I'm like, hey guys, do you mind me asking why you're taking the bags? Blah blah blah. Go down the whole spiel. Kristen and Dax come walking out. And Kristen looks at me as I'm talking to them very respectfully and goes, "What the hell are you doing? Like, why would you try to take their gifts away? They're mine. You're being so degrading. Like, they should take these bags and blah," and like makes this massive ordeal while there's like tons of people around. And I just look at her, I go, hey, look, hey, this, if the event owner or whoever's putting this thing on, so if that's how you feel, I'm like, okay, hey guys, go ahead and take those. Dax turns around and it's like what I did with the other client. He turns around, he's like, "Oh my gosh, dude, I'm so sorry." Like, like just gets her in the car and takes off. Fast forward, I'm doing the Ellen show with a client, and she comes back a house again. She's like, "Hey, I'm standing at the door, like literally in the door, because my client's changing, getting ready to go on set." She literally just tries to like brush through me, and she's like, "Hey, I want to go in there and meet so and so." I go, I mean, do you mind me asking if you've met before? She's like, no, I'm just going to go in and introduce myself. I'm like, well, I'm so and so. I'm with her security. Give me a minute. She's getting dressed, and she literally looks me square in the eyes and she goes, "I don't give a f who you are. Get out of my way. I'm going to go meet this person."
Wow, man, what a nice human being.
Yeah. So
She's
I mean, dude, again, those are my experiences. I don't know if that's how everyone else has had an experience with her. I mean, I think she's done some great films. I think she's done some horrible films, but I could tell you right now that my personal dealings with her were just, I mean, man, I could sit here and just badmouth the crap out of her.
well, that would be probably dealing with the egos would be terrible. I'm
Oh yeah.
glad that you've at least had a good experience with Mel Gibson because, man, Braveheart and The Patriot are like two of
Ah,
my favorite films. So that's what if you had had a bad one like I figured there's probably some pretty good horror stories with him, which he's definitely had his dark struggles there.
oh yeah.
Um, but man, yeah, that's crazy. Well, dude, I could talk to you all day about this stuff. Like it's fascinating to me. Um, I mean, it's just really cool to hear it, and I appreciate you coming on. We've run a good 2 hours. I feel like we've had a lot of awesome stuff in here. Have to have
Cool.
you back on, man. We can go down this rabbit hole a lot more.
Dude, I would love to do it, and that's like I said, we just barely touched on a tip of Hollywood. I mean, honestly, we could go into a really big rabbit hole with that and get, into some nitty-gritty stuff, but that one's going to be a little bit more of a methodical thinking process because I have to be really careful of how I maneuver those boundaries.
Yeah,
Um, but even getting into the worlds, like we were talking about different worlds of security, and it's like that's just one aspect of it. What we didn't get into is like we do combat sports. So we do, we work with the UFC part time. We work with Matchroom Boxing, so we do all their U.S. and South America fights. And I mean,
yeah,
just doing security on a level of events is, I mean, so much different than doing, personal security for, Hollywood celebrities. Um, and then there's the CEO aspect of it. And that's where things start to get really fun. And that's where you'll see me and my gears start clicking because that CEO stuff and the high speed like event, that's where I get my blood going and my creative juices flowing.
Well, I think that's a good teaser then. Like I said, I'll definitely have you back on so people will kind of have an idea of what round two will be like, man. I think that'd be an awesome episode. So,
Heck yeah.
man, yeah, I'd love to have you back on. Tell everybody where they can, one, where they can follow you, and also where they can check out your company.
Yeah, so funny enough, I got the same question about a week ago, and I was laughing because on your Instagram, you have a dinosaur in a modern age, right? And
Yeah.
dude, I'm very much like that. I was raised blue collar. I've always tried to kind of excel my business in a word of mouth, so to speak, manner. And so for now, like I'm on Instagram as Dustin.Burt.8. It's
Yeah.
private. You can hit me up on there. Um, I'm on LinkedIn just under my name. And then our company website is actually getting redone right now. We're trying to get some new content and different things on there, redoing our platform. But that's Superior Protection Co.com. That
Okay.
should be up by next week. And then we're working on some other cool stuff that hopefully we'll be getting out here in the next week or two. Um, just to kind of get our name out a little bit more. And like I said, it's this age, everything's about social media, right? And
Yeah.
or most of it. And so we're just trying to get caught up on that, not because we're not uh, electronic illiterate or anything. It's just we've always kind of held this very prestigious persona of our company. And now that we're getting to a point where we kind of have some of that clientele we want to open that up for a little bit and maybe reach out to some of those people who don't know us.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I think that's really cool. And dude, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been awesome talking to you.
Likewise, man. I can't wait to come back on. Hopefully, listeners got a little piece of something that they could go, "Oh crap, man, that was kind of cool to hear."
Yeah. Oh, I think they for sure did. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I hope y'all have enjoyed this episode. It's been a blast. And I do encourage you to go follow and go see what they're doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing the new content on the website and can't wait to have him back on. And I also ask real quick before we close, again, if you watch this video, hit the like and subscribe on YouTube, share it with a friend, and please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple. Guys, thank y'all and I appreciate it.